Learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge. Knowledge makes you great. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. The School of Management, Christi Jayanti College, takes pride in welcoming you all to the 7-day faculty development program on data analytics using SPSS. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. John Dewey. It is a great honor I take this opportunity to welcome Reverend Dr. Augustine George, Principal, Christi Jayanti College, who is a great visionary and plays a pivotal role in our institution. His noble ideologies, positivity, and determination are truly an inspiration and a model to behold for all. I welcome Father in his absence. I would like to extend a hearty welcome to Dr. Aloysius Edward J., Dean, Faculty of Commerce and Management. His commitment towards this institution and the teaching fraternity is indeed commendable. I welcome you, sir. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. M.K. Baby, Head School of Management, who is a pillar of support and constant motivator, which has enabled us to conduct this FDP in its entirety. We wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. I take this moment to welcome Dr. P.C. Geeta and Dr. D. Ravindran, faculty coordinators of this FDP, whose constant efforts and determination has helped organize this program in the best way possible. A warm and hearty welcome to all external participants and internal faculty members present here this fine evening. Hope the session will provide you all with valuable takeaways. Welcome you all once again. I now invite Dr. D. Ravindran, Faculty Coordinator, to give the prelude for this FDP.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening to respected dignitaries, faculties, and participants. Data analytics. Without data, you are just another person with an opinion. Yes, is it audible, sir?
Hey, audible, sir. Sir, he's using another mic.
In God we trust, all others bring data. W. Edwards Deming. Gone are the days when companies and countries were fighting with the help of products, process, and technology. The most important competitive advantage today is information or business intelligence. Generation of business intelligence has been accessible today because of huge generation and accessibility of data. 90% of the data on the internet has been created since 2016, according to an IBM marketing cloud study. There are now over 5 billion mobile devices users in 2019. 67% penetration of the entire global population happened at that time. Devices are a huge sources of 2.5 quintillion bytes of data we create every day. Not just mobile devices, but smart TVs, cars, aeroplanes, you named it, the Internet of Things is producing an increasing amount of data. Data generated by social media. And this availability of data powered by technological advancements to work on data has propelled a new domain of business, providing enormous job opportunities for all. Analysis of data is the strategic need for all organizations to take right decisions at right time. Academicians and research scholars require a deep and sound understanding of data analysis to pursue their research goals. This 7-day FDP on data analytics using SPSS will encompass A-to-Z research, starting from introduction to research and research problem to publishing your research works. The research team comprises of Dr. Joseph Charles, who will take us through Introduction to Research and SPSS today. And the second day, 22nd June of FDP, myself, Dr. D. Ravindran, will enlighten on the process of literature review, measurement, and scaling. Dr. P.C. Geeta will work on comparison of means using ANOVA on the third day. Dr. Joe Charles again will demonstrate exploratory factor analysis and cluster analysis on 24th of March. On 25th June, Dr. Srija Krishnakumar will enlighten on predictive analysis with the help of correlation and regression. On 27th June, Dr. Baba Gnanakumar will elaborate on identification and selection of journals for publishing your research work. On the final day, 28th June, Dr. Justin Nelson Michael, a Director, Center for Research, along with Mr. Jahir Mukhtar, will address on management research article from the perspective of an editor. So hope the participants will have enriching and informative sessions on all days of FDP. Welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Today deals with the introduction to research, statistics, and SPSS. The resource person for this session is Dr. Joseph Charles. It is my pleasure to introduce sir. Dr. Joseph Charles, Assistant Professor, School of Management, Christie Jayanti College, specializes in analytics, banking, and marketing with over 8 years of banking industry experience in customer service management, customer relations, banking operations, to name a few. He has 6.5 years of teaching experience. Sir is a published author with 18 articles in various national and international journals and has also authored a book. He has served as resource persons in various national level faculty development programs, workshops on data analytics using Excel, data analysis using SPSS, and innovative teaching practices and various skill enhancement programs for both students and teachers. He is trained in project management professional by PMI USA and is a certified software tester. I now request Dr. Joseph Charles to please take over the session.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening, respected dignitaries. Baby sir, head of the department, School of Management. Nelson sir, Director, Center for Research. Dr. Baba Gnanakumar, Director, Center for Consultancy. And other faculties and participants. Very good evening to one and all. Is my screen visible, Geeta ma'am?
Yes, sir, visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So welcome everyone to the first session on Introduction to Data Analytics and SPSS. Oh, okay. So today I'll be.
Sorry for disturbance. Please proceed.
Yeah. So today I'll be taking you through the introduction part of the data analytics. So this will be my agenda for the day. Research problem identification, research gap, research objectives, hypothesis formulation, and also basic introduction to SPSS. How do we start using SPSS? How the data could be loaded from Excel to SPSS. So the basic things which we have to do, which we need to know in SPSS would be dealt with in today's session. So moving on to the first one, introduction to data analytics. So data analytics is the science of analyzing raw data to make conclusions. So raw data is meaningless, or it's not in the right form for us to make some good decisions or to conclude to make some good conclusions. I would equate the raw data to, say, for example, raw vegetables, or say, for example, you want to make sambar. Sambar would go well with idli, dosa, right? So sambar is the processed output. But to make sambar, you need to have some raw vegetables, some dal, various other items, the masala powders, the spices, green leaves. So all those things, you bring it together, you have a process of cleaning it, you cut it into appropriate size, shape. So there are a lot of pre-preparation which goes into the sambar making. And then you try to get into, there could be some cutting process, shaping process, heating process, mixing it with water, mixing it with some tamarind juice, a lot of other things you add it. There are a lot of processes it goes through, and finally it becomes a sambar. So same as that, raw data is like that. We can't directly have dal with uh, with dosa or idli. The dal has to be cooked and it has to be prepared along with other items, and it becomes a sambar, and then it goes well with idli or dosa. Same as that, the raw data is not meaningful, or not appropriate, or not very tasty or colorful, you could say, for us to make some decisions or conclusions when we do a research or when we make decisions in a business setting. So it is a process of converting the raw data into much meaningful information, finding hidden patterns, finding out unseen trends, discovering correlations between variables, to draw some insights out of it through the process of analysis. So when we make sambar, it's a process of cooking, cleaning, washing, or mixing, all those stuff. But here it is a process of data analysis, the data preparation, the data analysis, and then the reporting. So it could be performed using various tools and sometimes using different algorithms as well. So in this entire FDP, we are just going to learn how to prepare sambar. I mean, how to convert this raw data into a meaningful, much useful, information or insight. So that's what this entire FDP is all about. Okay. So the basics of analytics, the purpose of analytics we discussed. There are different types of analytics, starting from descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. So descriptive analytics is very easy. Even in Excel, we could do descriptive analytics. But of course, nowadays, even Excel has become much more smarter. Descriptive analytics tries to answer certain questions like what had happened in the past. So it's like a postmortem analysis. Something has already happened. You try to understand what has happened. Diagnostic analytics is like, why did it happen? So you diagnose the reasons behind the particular thing which has happened. Predictive is futuristic in nature. We try to predict what might happen in the future, or what is the probability of occurrence of a particular event in the future. And prescriptive is we try to suggest, what should the manager do, or what should a business do in that particular scenario. So descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. Of course, we are going to use a lot of software tools and applications in all these analytics. The degree of sophistication or the automation which is required increases as we move from descriptive through prescriptive analytics. And of course, when you consider it as a business, Ravindran sir was mentioning about the competitive advantage. So the companies which are able to utilize the data what they have, or utilize the talents what they have to analyze, to work on this raw data, extract the insights which are hidden in this data, which the competitor might not be able to do, or trying to find out something new insight which the competitor has missed out. Okay. And that we call it the competitive advantage. Those managers or those business are able to take right decisions or better decisions in different complicated scenarios. And on the y-axis, we have the competitive advantage. So if the businesses are able to apply the tools and get into the advanced predictive modeling techniques, or predictive analytics techniques, and prescriptive analytics techniques, they have a more chance of being competitively advantaged, compared to the competitors. So in the entire process of data analytics, there are different steps in data analytics process. The most important step, and the first important step, is to find out the data requirement. What data do we really require? Only when you have a clarity on this, only when you identify and decide what data you need for the entire analysis process, then we could go to the specific analytics method, and we can apply the specific tools, and we need to find out. Now, in order to find out what data do we require, first of all, we need to understand what problem are we attempting to solve. Only when we understand the problem, then we can understand what data is required, from which the insights could give me a solution for that particular problem, or which could give me an answer to that question which is unanswered. So the data requirement, in order to understand or identify the data requirement, first of all, we need to understand or define what exactly is the problem. So the problem is idli is there, dosa is there, side dish is not there, sambar is not there. So if you decide sambar is required, then you know what are the items required to prepare sambar. Or say paratha is there, chapati is there, chicken gravy is not there, then you know to prepare chicken gravy, what are the things we need. So same as that, first of all, we need to have an understanding of the problem. If problem is clearly defined, if a proper understanding is attained in understanding the problem, then it's easy to find out what are the different variables or different data that is required in our research. So first we start with the research problem identification. So the research problem is defined as the gap or uncertainty in the decision maker's existing book of knowledge, which inhibits efficient decision making. So research problem is something which is a gap, or something which a question which is unanswered, or something which doesn't have the required knowledge to make a conclusion or a better decision. So we try to identify that area where it requires some attention, or in that particular area, if we could do some research that could gain or that could give us new knowledge which could fill that particular gap. It addresses an issue that has gone wrong, or it could be a condition which needs an improvement, I mean the research problem, or it could be a situation that requires more understanding. Right now it is unclear, or it is ambiguous or vague, so we need more information in order to understand that. Or it's a troubling question for which the answers are not there, we need to find an answer. The research problem could be simple sometimes, or sometimes it could be very complicated. So the research problem identification has 6 steps, right from finding out the objectives of the decision maker, understanding the background of the problem. Many times we try to take the symptoms and we try to misunderstand the symptoms, but actually the problem is something different. For instance, you go to a doctor, you have fever. Now fever is a symptom. We need to understand what exactly is causing this particular fever. So the doctor will try to ask you so many questions and try to make an assessment. Sometimes he might ask you to go for some test, some blood test or something that will give him additional information to conclude, okay, this is what the infection is, right? So it's not the symptom which we are trying to address, it is the problem which we need to identify. So many times what happens is people take the symptoms and then you say, okay, you have fever, go for paracetamol. Fever will never respond to paracetamol. The fever could be because of some specific infection which might require some antibiotics, we do not know. So we need to isolate the symptoms and we need to uncover the problem. We need to decide on the unit of analysis from where we need to collect the data. We need to identify the different variables for our research, which would be our base, for those variables only we will be collecting the data. And then with that data, we will try to do the analysis. Finally, we would be creating the research questions and research objectives. So this is a 6-step process over here. So understanding the background of the problem. Many times the problem is unclear, or it's vague, or identifying it would be very difficult. The iceberg principle says that only the 10% of the iceberg is visible above the water. The thing which is hidden is almost 90%, which is hidden inside the water, which is uncovered, and it could be more dangerous. So our idea is to uncover this problem. So we need to have more information about this problem. So many times we start with the background of the problem. So understanding the background of the problem, you could do it in many ways. I have highlighted few things. One is having a discussion with the experts in that particular field. Say, for example, your research area is into marketing, you are studying services marketing. So we could have a discussion with people who are there in the service industry. Say, for example, banking industry, banking service industry. You could have discussion with people who are in the banks, or you could have a discussion with people who have already done substantial level of research in the banking field. So this could help give us a lot of background information. Review of existing literature, which will be covered in the tomorrow's session. But existing literature is something which has already been published, which has already been documented. The research has already concluded and it has been published. So already people have uncovered a research problem. Already people have found answers to those unanswered questions. So already it has been published. So those information could give you some background information of the problem which you are currently facing in. So what we try to do, we try to go to the databases or the repository and find out those literature which are relevant or which are closer to our research area, and then we try to gather information about our specific problem. You could also do a pilot study, a small scale study to understand the specific nature of your problem, or you could also get into some qualitative analysis like case studies or focus group, or you could use any other qualitative techniques to understand what exactly is the problem. There was this specific case in an industry, sales of a particular product was not picking up, and they were losing market share. So the competitor's product is selling, but this particular brand was not selling. Now the sales is declining or the market share is declining is just a symptom. What we need to understand is what causes this decline in sales. Now, it is easily said, it's like the iceberg problem. It's very difficult to uncover the things which are hidden. So there could be various reasons for which the sales could decline, but the researcher have to speak to those experts in that particular company or in that particular industry, try to understand why the sales is declining, why the competitors' sales are increasing, why this particular brand is losing its market share. They might go for the existing literature and do a detailed analysis of the previous knowledge. They could do a small study or a qualitative study, and they can find out, or they can go to the distribution, have a discussion with the suppliers, or go to the retailer, do an observation when the customer is in the process of buying a particular product, how he evaluates or what he is looking at. So we can get into the roots, and we need to find out what exactly is the problem. The problem could be in terms of advertising and communication, or in the problem could be in the packaging, or the problem could the product itself could be a problem, or the problem could be in the distribution. We do not know. So that problem has to be identified. Only when it's identified, then we need to try to find a solution for that particular problem. So the research problem identification is very important. And one of the steps is also identification of the research variables. Now, when this research problem and the research variables are very clear, and then we could easily go and find out the objectives, of course, the research gap, once you are clear with all these things, and it will be easy for you to frame the objectives and generate the hypothesis. So there are different types of variables. The most commonly used variables, we might be knowing it, but just to brush through the basics. The first variable is the dependent variable. The dependent variable is the variable which we are currently studying, the concept or the construct that we are studying or analyzing in our research. So the entire research is to either describe this particular variable or to investigate the probable causes for the effect on this particular variable. So that is a dependent variable. So example could be productivity of an employee, or productivity of we can say product of an employee. independent variable could be any variable that influences or that causes a change or that impacts this particular dependent variable is an independent variable. So I've taken an example of flexi time implementation in an organization as an independent variable. So how far flexi timing would influence or impact the employee productivity, which is the dependent variable. So that in a study there could be one or more dependent variable, or that could be one or more independent variables as well. There is another variable called intervening variable or a mediating variable. Now this is a temporal variable which is which lies before the dependent variable and after the independent variable. So we say that independent variable influences the dependent variable. So the intervening variable is something which is in between these two. So the independent variable first influences the intervening variable, and the intervening variable in turn influences the depending variable. So as an example, the flexi timing is an independent variable, influences on the first part, it influences job satisfaction. The moment the employee is satisfied with his job because of the flexi timing implementation, that reflects in the employee productivity. So the satisfaction is a temporal thing which results in the employee productivity. So in your study, there could be one or more intervening variables as well. We have two more things. One is the moderating variable. The moderating variable is like this variable would change the direction of the influence, or it could change the magnitude of the influence. The presence and absence of this particular variable would influence the would increase or decrease the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable, or it might sometimes even change the direction, positive or negative. So example here I have taken is flexi timing implementation, which is the independent variable, increases employee productivity, which is the dependent variable, especially among the female employees. So gender is a moderating variable, and if if it's a female employee, the productivity is further enhanced, the flexi timing, whereas the gender aspect, the male aspect of the gender, wherein even if there is a productivity increase, the influence is not much. So that is a moderating variable. And there is another set of variable we call the extraneous variable. Extraneous variable are those variables which will have a direct and indirect influence on the dependent variable, but the researcher would not have taken that or would not have considered in his research. Say, for example, academic performance of the student. Academic performance of the student could depend on the personal student factors, his his learning ability or his regularity in the class, his attentiveness. It could be the teacher related factor, it could be the institutional infrastructure related factor, or it could be the student's personal family related factors. Say, for example, a researcher decides to study the academic performance of the student with respect to the student related factor and the teacher related factor. It doesn't mean that student's academic performance depends only on the student and also on the teacher. Sometimes it could also be influenced by the infrastructural factor or the personal family related factors, or it could even be some other factors. But the researcher decides to take only these limited factors for some reason. So those factors which have an effect on the dependent variable, but which have not been considered for the study, we call it as the extraneous variable. So these are the 5 different variables we need to identify when we do the review of literature, or when we do the pilot study, or when we do any qualitative, the background problem identification process. When you're in the problem identification process, we need to identify the research variables as well. When you do the review of literature, the review of literature ends with you identifying the research gap. So the gap is simply a topic or area which missing or insufficient information limits the ability to reach a conclusion for a particular question. So the research gap is something which sets the stage for you to do the research. The research gap is the area where the previous knowledge is not sufficient, or it's not there, or it's not providing the answer to a particular question. So a review of literature generally ends in identification of this particular gap. And you start your research, you do your research in order to fill this particular gap. The research gap identification sets the stage for the researcher to derive and to set his own research objectives for his particular study or research. So research objectives are closely related to the problem what you have identified and also the gap in the previous knowledge what you have identified. There could be a primary objective in your research and there could be one or more secondary objectives. The objectives convey the main focus of your study, the main reason why you are doing this particular study. And it should be clear and it should be precisely written. It is a good habit to always to number your objectives. Also, when you write your objectives, it needs to be very clearly written in terms of what you want to identify, whether you want to identify the factors that influence the concept under study, or whether you want to describe the concept under study, or whether you want to study the impact of one variable on the other or the relationship between two or more variables. So that has to be clearly specified in the objectives, because based on the objective, the next stages of your research in terms of how you set your hypothesis, what statistics you would choose, what test you would do, all those things depends on this particular objective. Of course, this objective is based on the problem what you have identified and the research gap what you have identified. So next is, once you set your objectives clear, from the objectives we could generate the hypothesis or derive the hypothesis. Hypothesis is an assumption that is made based on some evidences. Hypothesis is a tentative proposition which needs testing, which is yet to be proved or rejected. So hypothesis is just an assumption or a tentative proposition which the researcher makes an attempt to collect relevant data, to do some statistical test on that data, and try to prove or reject that particular hypothesis. This is the initial point of any investigation that translates the research question into a prediction. It includes all those components, the research variables, population, all those things what we discussed. It will mention all those things. It helps in directing the research or the process of inquiry in a specific direction. The entire research exercise what you are going to do will revolve around either to prove or reject this particular hypothesis. A hypothesis would be proved or rejected by conducting statistical tests on the data which you are going to collect. When we say hypothesis, two main hypotheses generally we set in the study. We call it as a null hypothesis or the alternate hypothesis. The null hypothesis is denoted by H0 or H0, and it is, we say that it is commonly accepted fact. Earlier, it was a scientist who said that Earth is at the center, and all the sun and moon and all the other planets revolve around the Earth. And there was another scientist called Copernicus, who said that no, sun is at the center, and Earth and other things revolve around the sun. And so here they set the hypothesis and they try to prove or reject the hypothesis. Now, if I, as Copernicus, if I have to reject, or I have to tell you that sun is at the center and Earth is revolving around the sun, first of all, I need to disprove what has already been proved. So what has already been said? What has already been said is sun is in the center and Earth is in the center and sun revolves around it. So for me as a researcher, proving you wrong is easier rather than telling you that this is telling you the alternative. This is what is correct. So there are two things. First, I need to prove you wrong. Second, I need to tell you what is right. So proving you wrong is easier for me. And that's how this concept of null hypothesis arrived. So we try to set a statement which we want to reject, and we try to we make an attempt to prove something what we say is correct. So here the null hypothesis is a commonly accepted fact which we want to reject or we want to disprove. So researchers work to reject or nullify or disprove the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis doesn't mean that the hypothesis is null, but it gets nullified by the researcher. Researchers come up with an alternative hypothesis, one that they think or they assume that is what is correct, and then the entire research work is on trying to reject the null hypothesis and try to accept the alternative hypothesis. So some examples I have given. A researcher would like to find the relationship between the time spent by students on academics and the academic score they have obtained. So academic score is the dependent variable. The time spent by the student is the independent variable. So the null hypothesis could be written like this. There is no significant relationship between time spent by the student on academics and the academic score obtained. The alternative hypothesis is a positive statement. There is a significant relationship between the time spent by the student on academics and the academic score obtained. Another example, the researcher would like to assess the impact of the time spent on mobile phone games on the academic score obtained. So here the null hypothesis could be there is no significant impact or influence of the time spent on mobile phone games on the academic score obtained, or there is the alternative hypothesis would be like there is a significant impact or influence of the time spent on mobile phone games on the academic score obtained. Generally, in causal research, we have multiple variables, and probably we would like to understand the relationship or influence of one variable on the other. And this is the style that is followed in causal research. Sometimes there could be descriptive research as well, where there may not be multiple variables, or we may not be studying the relationship or the influence of one variable on the other. So here another example from descriptive side, a researcher wants to find whether 60% of the students passing out of UG programs in Bengaluru with an objective to earn land in a job within 6 months. So here the null hypothesis could be 60% of the students passing out of the UG program in Bangalore with an objective to earn do not land in a job within 6 months. And an alternative hypothesis could be 16% of the students passing out of the UG program in Bangalore with an objective to earn, will land in a job within 6 months. Okay, so that could be the alternative hypothesis. So there are sequence of steps we follow in hypothesis. The first step is we decide on the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis, which was discussed in the previous slide. The second thing is we decide on the level of significance. Generally, it could be 5% or 1% level of significance. So a 5% of level of significance means the researcher is 95% confident of not committing type 1 error. If it is 1%, he would be 99% of not committing type 1 error. Then we need to determine what type of statistic we would use, t-test or z-test or f-test or any other statistics we would be using for the study. That depends on the type of variable or the objective what you have set. And then the decision making is based on the p-value. If the p-value is less than 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis. If the p-value is above 0.05, we accept the null hypothesis. So that is the brief description for the day. And the next part is about the introduction to SPSS. So SPSS is a statistical analysis software from IBM. It has been there in the industry for quite some time. For decades, this software is there. They have come up with multiple versions of the software. Very popular and widely used for statistical analysis. Very user-friendly. No need of any coding or computer programming knowledge. With few mouse clicks, the required results could be obtained. The results are beautifully displayed in terms of a chart or in terms of beautiful tables. All those statistical information or justification what you need is beautifully listed out in the output reports what you would generate from SPSS. And that is the reason, and it's very easy to learn for a layman as well. And that is the reason SPSS is very popular. It is powerful and yet it is very simple to use. It could be used in the different stages of analytics, like the data preparation, the data management and analysis, and also in terms of reporting the findings in terms of graphical representation or in terms of tabular report. SPSS is very robust in terms of doing that. I have shared the link in the WhatsApp group for you to download the SPSS software package. If you click on that link, IBM would ask you to create an account with them. So you need to give your email ID, phone number, all those information. You fill all those information and go next. You will get a verification through your mail. A code will be sent to your mail. You need to collect that code and you need to put it in the browser in that account page where you are. And once you enter the code and click verify, it will take you to this particular page It will take you to this particular page where you could download the IBM SPS statistics software, the subscription trial version. So you'll get a trial version and you could download that. So it's a 1 month trial version. So today is June 20th. So you'll get a 1 month trial version. You could download it and you could install it. So this is the process. I assume the participants have already downloaded the SPSS software. So you could open the SPSS application. So I'm using the 21st version. Of course, the trial version would be, I think, 24 version. The moment you open the SPSS, is my screen visible? The SPSS screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the moment you open the SPSS, so this will be the landing page, and this part of running the tutorial, you could just cancel this for time being. So this will be the landing screen. So we call this as a data editor window. In SPSS, we have a couple of windows. I'll explain you everything. The first window where we will land is the data editor window. So this is the window where you will work on the data, or you will create the data, or you will load the data over here. You will define the data over here. And once you do the analysis, the output will be generated on output window, output viewer window. On the output, if you want to create a chart or something like that, that will come on the chart window, chart editor window. So there are multiple windows. So this is the main window, which we call the data editor window, what you see on my screen. So here you have a couple of menus. This is the menu bar and file menu. So file menu, the thing is, if you want to load a data from an Excel, you could click on open and data, you could load it. I have shared an Excel in the WhatsApp group. You could download that Excel also. We will try to load that Excel into SPSS and we'll try to work on that. You could also import data from CSV file or text file. It could be directly loaded into SPSS. So today we are restricting to the Excel data in an Excel sheet, how it can be loaded to the SPSS. And then you have some edit menu, view menus there. The primarily we will be focusing on this data menu, transfer menu, and analyze menu. The data menu, the data preparatory aspects, in terms of identifying the duplicate cases, all those things would be available on the data menu. There's also transfer menu, which also we primarily use it for the data preparation part, which I would explain. And there is an analyze menu, which carries all the analytical, tools, which we would be using it in our data analysis. So most of the time we would be working on this analyze, menu. And the items over here in the analyze menu would depend on which version of SPSS you are using. If you have the premium version, you will have the complete list of options in SPSS. Okay, so this is the data editor window. In the data editor window, at the bottom you have two tabs. One tab is data view, another tab is called variable view. So data view is the place where you will have all the raw data over there. Variable view is the view where you will define your data, or in terms of validating your data, you'll use this variable view. So suppose if, say for example, I create here some names, like say some student names here, and then say for example I enter their weight. Okay, I enter their weight. Okay, so you could see here directly you can enter the values data over here in the data view. There is one option. And on the header, you could see by default SPSS would assume or assign the variable names as variable 1, variable 2. It assigns the names. But specifically, you as a researcher wanted to define that variable in your own way. You wanted to give it a name. So that editing, that definition, we'll do it in the variable view. So if you go to the variable view, you could see here automatically SPSS would have created the variable name, and it has created all the values over there. So now we'll understand this in the data view. The first one is the text one. We call it a string data type. The second, we have a numeric data type. So if you go to the variable view, the first variable SPSS has automatically identified it as a string variable, and it has identified it as a numeric. The second variable is a numeric variable, and it has defined it, the width as 8 and the decimals as 2 places. So all these things you could define, as a researcher before you start your analysis. Here you could define these things. Suppose if you want the decimal places to be 0, you could make it here, or if you want 1 decimal point, if you want more decimal places, the width, you could create it. And you could also give a label to it in the label column. And then here, where do you want to align, left side or right side? That could be done. And the more important column over here is the measure column, where the type of data is mentioned over here. So here on the string, it has taken it as a nominal one. Of course, it's a nominal variable, so I would keep it as a nominal variable. If in case it has a rank or a hierarchy, then you could select as a ordinal variable. So it's basically a categorical variable. So in the numerics thing, it's a weight. It's on a continuous scale variable. It's a measure, so I put it as a scale variable. So all these definitions you could decide, because depending on the type of the scale, whether it is ordinal scale or nominal scale or the scale variable, the statistical test what you would use would vary. So this definitions is a must. So we need to clearly mention all these things in the variable view, so that when you do the analysis, everything will be set. So here you could change the name also. I could give it as a name, and I could give it as, say, weight, and label, say I will keep it as N, and I will keep it as, say, for example, W. So all these are user defined. You could define all those things over here. So here you have the data view. So as I said, either directly you can type the data. So here now you could see the column header. The name what we typed is being seen over here. The variable 1 name is name, and the variable 2 name is weight. So this is how we enter the data. Alternatively, you can also load files from Excel. We'll see how to load it. But because it's a small data set, we'll just make an attempt. Say, for example, I wanted to do a analysis on this particular data. So say, for example, I go to analyze, and I go to okay, we'll go to descriptives. Say, for example, you go to frequency, and then say you put the name into the variable, and then you click OK. So frequency is just going to count how many things are there. So here you could see the output comes as a separate window. We call it as the output viewer window. And here, whatever you input, the test, whatever you run, or whatever analysis, whatever you do, the output is given in a beautiful table. And here we did a frequency, so it has given a count of the variables. So what I wanted to show you is the output window, how the output window looks like. And in SPSS, you could save the output file separately. You could also save the data file separately. So if you want to save the output file, you could go to File, Save As, and you could save it in a particular location. So the output file will be saved as SPV, and you could choose a location. Say I'm putting it as a desktop, and let it be output 1, and I can save. It will save as SPV extension. So I can close this. If you save the data file, same process, go to File, Save As, choose the file location. The data file will have the extension .sav. So SPSS file, the data file will have extension .sav. Output file will have .spv. So the moment you run a test, you wanted to take a break or something like that, the output can be saved. So you don't have to run the test again to generate the output. The output generated could be saved for future use. You can just save it. That will be saved as a s.sav file. Okay, so this is how we, the basics of the SPSS layout, the windows. So we'll go to file, we'll go to new, or we'll say go to open and give data. Already I have posted the Excel file in the WhatsApp group. So I want you to open that Excel file. File type, you go to file type and select Excel files. By default, it will show the SPSS files. You select the Excel file, and here choose the file which I have posted in the WhatsApp group. Okay, so immediately this dialog box opens, and it says read variable names from the first row of the data. Generally in Excel, when we create the Excel table, the first row will have the column headers, the names of those variables, columns. So SPSS is asking us, does the first row have the column headers or the names, variable names? If the first row is having the variable name, the variable view we created the names, right? Automatically it will pick the values from the Excel and it will use it as the variable names. If suppose in your Excel you have only the numbers, the names are not there, you can uncheck this. You can click OK. It will load the numbers, and you have to go to the variable view and define the variable name. So in this case, the Excel has got the first row as the column variable names. So I'm going to have a tick mark there. I'm going to click on the button OK. Click on the button OK. So this will load. This will load the data into your SPSS. Okay, first let us give a new. Yeah, it has come. Fine. Okay, so this is how the data gets loaded from Excel. So you could see the column names or the variable names are already there. If you go to variable view, so here you could see there are some 21 variables, and all the variables have got the name, and by default it has taken some width and the decimal places. It has also taken the if it is a numerical one, it would have taken it as a scale. If it is a string, it would have taken it as a nominal variable. So you can just review it. If you want to make any changes, you can make changes. If the default settings are correct, you can leave it just like that. And the sales, in this case, the sales decimal place is 15. That's why in the data view, you will have, after the decimal point, you have so many zeros there. So I'm going to go to the decimal place and I'm going to make it as 2 point. Same as that for profit also, I'm going to make it as 2 points. So that if you go to the data view, now the numbers have been, the decimal places have been reduced to 2 places. So now the data we have loaded into the data editor window in the data view. So now here we will try to do some analysis. So we'll go to analyze. You go to descriptive statistics. You go to frequencies. And say, for example, we have order priority. So you wanted to find out how many orders are on high priority, how many orders are on low priority. So I put it, so you need to, okay, I'll show you again. On the left-hand side, you have all the variables. On the right-hand side, you need to move one of the variable to do the frequencies. You could also add multiple variables here. So generally frequency, we do it for categorical variable, the nominal variable. So I'm picking the order priority, which is a nominal variable. So click on that particular variable. And then in between the two compartments, you have the arrow symbol. You click on that arrow symbol. You could see that order priority from the left-hand side moves to the right-hand side. And then you could simply go and click the OK button. If in case you want a chart, we'll see that also. In the right-hand side, there are 4 buttons there. Statistics, charts. You go to charts. And then here you have different chart option, bar chart, pie chart, histogram. I would like to have a pie chart. And as I'm selecting pie chart, instead of frequency, I wanted to display the percentage. So I'm going to select percentage instead of frequency and click on continue. And then I'm going to click on the button OK. The moment I click on the button OK, so now you could see in the report, I have the tabular output, table is there. So I have critical orders, I have high orders, I have low priority orders, medium priority orders. Certain orders, the priority level is not specified. So totally I have 8,319 orders. So the table, the frequency is available, the cumulative percentage is available, the individual percentages are also available. For the percentage, I have also created a chart. So this is the output viewer window. And if you double click on the chart, the chart editor window will open. So this is the chart editor window. So here you could the chart title could be changed. You could change the chart title, and the chart is plain without any data labels. So if you want to have the data labels in the ribbon, left hand side in the ribbon, the first option at the bottom, if you move your mouse, it says data label mode. So click on that button, and then you click on all these pies over here, left click on all this pie, and then you will see the data label is also displayed over there. You could go and click on the data label button once again. It will come out of the data label mode. And of course, you could change the colors, the background color, all those things you could do. These are like aesthetics formatting options. So this is the chart. And you could go to, you could right click on the chart, and there is an option which says copy chart. So you could copy here. If you want to paste it in a PowerPoint, you could go to open the PowerPoint and you could paste it there. If you want to paste it in a Word file, you can copy here, and you could go to the open a Word document and you could paste it over there. So this is how we can create the chart reports. Table also, if you want to copy directly, you can from here right click on that particular table, you can copy it. When you do multiple analysis, the output on the left hand side, you could see you see the different items over there. So when I click on the title, you could see it highlights the title. Title is frequency. There are some notes there, and then there is a statistics table is there. Then there is a order priority table is there. Then there is a pie chart. So all these items are listed in a nested form on the left hand side. As I create multiple analysis or multiple tests, everything will come one after other in the left hand side, so that you could go to a particular output and you could see. I could also save this output file as I described earlier. So the same frequency, you could do it for multiple variables at the same time. You could go to descriptive, you could go to frequencies. Suppose if I want to do two variables, you could add one more variable. Say for example, you could add a region also, and then I don't want the chart. I want only the table, and you could display it here. So here you could see the same test. I have got frequency for order priority, also for region. So same way you could do cross tabulation, you could do descriptive statistics. So all those things are available here. You could go to analyze menu, go to descriptive statistics, and you give descriptives. So descriptive is for the scale variables. So only you will see only the scale variables are listed here. So say for example, if you select profit and move it to the right hand side and click OK. So it will give me all the descriptives, the minimum value, maximum value, mean profit, standard deviation. So the descriptive statistics could be obtained in this way. And on the left hand side, you could see as I create the output, every output is listed in a nested fashion. And I could save this entire output as one file, and I could use it, or I could save it as a PDF and print it. I could retain that file. So that's how you do the descriptives. I could also do cross tabs. You could go to descriptive statistics. You could go to cross tabulation. You can click on cross tabulation. You could select the row variable and the column variable. So say for example, I want order priority as the row variable, and I want the regions as the column variable. I go to regions and put it as the column variable and click OK. So now it is given a cross tabulation of region wise how many orders are there, high priority, at low priority, medium priority, etc. So this way the cross tabulation could be done and you could save the output as well. So that's what about the introduction to SPSS. So I have certain questions in the chat. Sir, can you please explain difference between moderating variable, mediating variable? Moderating variable is something, say for example, you take the examination hall. In an examination hall, students are seated and you have a moderator or you have a invigilator, we call them as a moderator. Now, a student will copy or will not copy. Even if the moderator is present, he might copy. If the moderator is absent also, he might copy. But because the moderator is present, some students may not copy or the level of copying might come down because the moderator is there. If the moderator is absent, almost the entire class might be engaging in copying. So the moderating variable, either it would influence the effect or level, like the positivity or the negativity, or it would impact the magnitude of the effect. It will accelerate or decelerate the that impact. So that is the moderating variable. Mediating variable or the intervening variable is it's an in-between variable. As I say, for example, service quality perceptions. Service quality of a service provider. If the service quality is high, customer loyalty is high. But there could be a mediating variable. The service quality perception first would lead to customer satisfaction. And those customers who have a sense of satisfaction would be loyal. So here, the satisfaction is a mediating variable or the intervening variable. Hope I answered you, ma'am. Another question is, only demographic variables can be taken as moderating variable. No, moderating variable need not be, it could be the other variables also, scale variables also. It need not be only the demographic or the categorical variable. Can we call extraneous variable as a control variable? I think control variable is the moderating variable, I guess. Extraneous variable are those variables which are not considered in the study at all, but it might have an influence on the dependent variable, which you as a researcher, for some reason, you have not considered that as a in the study. You have not considered that factor in the study. Maybe if you have too many variables in the study, data collection will should also take place at multiple places. It might be complicated, or you might wanted to focus only on one particular area. So for some reason, you choose, you decide to keep those variables as external variable. Can we do qualitative analysis too in SPSS? Yeah, qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis in sense, what exactly you want to know? Qualitative analysis. Qualitative variables could be studied here. But what do you? Okay, text related things you are asking. Text analytics or things like that, I doubt. Maybe the advanced premium versions might have. I'm not sure on that. Generally, we use it for the quantitative variables. I don't think we could do text analytics or sentiment analysis using SPSS. Any other questions? Yeah, mediating variable, I already told you. I gave in another example of customer service quality influencing customer loyalty. There could be a mediating variable like, say, customer satisfaction. Customer service quality perceptions might make a customer feel satisfied. Because he's feeling satisfied, he wanted to be loyal to the product, to the brand. So customer service quality, yes, of course, it influences customer loyalty, but there is a in between, there is a variable which we call as a mediating variable. So first, service quality perceptions at the emotional level leads to, at the cognitive level leads to satisfaction. That satisfaction results in the behavior of customer loyalty, customer being loyal to that particular brand. So in that case, customer satisfaction is the mediating variable. Thank you, ma'am. Is there any other question? There are certain plugins available. There are certain add-ins also available for SPSS. For any specific, specific purpose, we need to find out whether plugin is available or not. For instance, if you want to do structural SEM, structural equation modeling, there is another add-in which comes along with SPSS called AMOS. If you have that, that could be used along with SPSS, which we could use it for structural equation modeling. So like that, there are various plugins available, add-ins also available in SPSS. Certain things might be freely available. I think certain things are paid versions. So based on your specific requirement, we could find out whether it is available or not, and then we could download, or we need to pay and purchase it. Geeta ma'am, can we wind it for the day? Baby sir, I think we can end the session. So that's what I wanted to share. Tomorrow, I think Ravindran sir will take you through the review of literature, and you'll also have the other faculty members taking you through different analysis which you could perform through SPSS, predictive analytics, and other techniques we'll be learning in the subsequent sessions. Thank you so much.